Okay, all right. So we are live again. It's episode 3 with Pratik Pandey. So he has been an amazing engineer. I think a lot of you have seen his LinkedIn articles, his lot of insights into different deep tech things. Recently, he has been involved with Amazon AWS Community Builder. So we'll talk about that, and there are much more exciting things we'll talk about. So thank you, Pratik, for coming. And why don't you introduce yourself a little bit and what other people don't know about you?
Yeah, thanks, Hitesh, for having me. Uh, I am just a software engineer working right now in Booking.com. Been in Amsterdam for about a year and a half, or a little more than a year and a half. Uh, Primarily, I have worked on backend technologies. Uh, in the beginning of my career, I did fiddle around with some front end stuff, but over the last 7, 8 years, it's been mostly backend.
Okay.
I started off my career with S&P, uh,
Yeah.
grew to a senior manager there,
Yeah.
then moved to an individual contributor role
Okay.
in
Don't
Arcesium.
reveal it out why, because that's a question as well. So,
Yeah, I'm not revealing why, but yeah, moved to individual contributor in Arcesium, and then grew to principal engineer, and then moved to Amsterdam.
awesome. So tell me one thing which other people might not know. Like it is less common.
I'm a very lazy person. If you are
Okay.
assuming that I'm not a lazy person, it's not true. I'm a very lazy person.
Oh, that was surprising though. Okay, cool.
Yeah,
Okay, so talking about, I think you mentioned it. So all of your careers have been mostly tech. So you worked for S&P Global for like 8 years almost, and then you moved to Arcesium, and then you moved to Booking.com. So there was one point that was different. So that was manager. So how did you decide that you will go the IC route after being manager, or like what was the motivation, what you like or didn't like? So why don't you tell a little bit about that?
yeah. I feel my journey makes it easy because you have been a manager. You start off always as an individual contributor. So
Right.
then you have experience of both worlds and you know what you personally prefer. I think there is a lot that SNP taught me that stint as a manager, and I started managing pretty early. Like I became a lead with 3.5 years of experience when I started managing people. By the time I left SNP, I was managing a team of 35 people.
Oh,
So I
amazing.
grew the team from 2 or 3 people to 35. That experience itself was enriching. It taught me a lot. I think as a man, when you become a manager, it teaches you more about yourself than anything else. So that experience was something that made me realize that for me, like I think I see managers that I have today, especially my manager at Booking. I think that to me is the gold standard because uh, I really look up to him and the way he has managed things. But one of the things that I find with, especially with good managers, is that they are there for your career growth. It's not about what you deliver. It's not about what tasks are being given to you and tracking those things. It's about
Mhm.
building someone's career. And to do that, it really takes a lot of effort and investment. And
I
I
see.
like for me personally, I felt I was more interested in the tech part than building career. Like I wanted people to grow, no
Okay.
doubt about it. Uh, but I didn't think that I was invested to the same extent that I should be. And that's why that decision to move to an individual contributor side made it probably was an easy one for me.
Okay.
Also, I felt that there was a lot of technical things that I still needed to learn. I still to this day think the same. Uh, and that's why I'm still an individual contributor.
Oh, awesome. And so the initial motivation, so if I understand it correctly, the initial motivation was like you wanted people to grow together. And that was the initial shift to being a manager or a people's manager. And
Yeah,
then,
I think how I got into management was like it was more of an, I would say, an IC doing well, getting more responsibilities, and the responsibilities came in the form of managing people.
oh, okay. I think that
Yeah,
was the natural progression earlier, right? There was not
yeah,
a lot of IC kind of thing. Like everyone was after lead, they will become
correct,
a manager, and then that will
correct.
go on.
Yeah,
Okay, cool. So talking about booking.com. So booking.com at one point was one of the highly coveted companies in India because they had an office in Amsterdam, and probably one of the few companies who are giving offers from Amsterdam directly.
Yes,
So
yes.
how's been your experience as of now, and how is Amsterdam as a place? So
Uh, I still feel that Booking is like a really nice company to work at. I think the people that you work with are incredibly smart, and that really helps you uh,
okay.
grow in terms of both knowledge. So you're just having these conversations about difficult things, and plus the scale at which Booking operates, like that automatically brings out difficult challenges. So from that perspective, extremely good. I think one thing that I did not have experience with, which I got to see in Booking, is like managing large scale on-prem infrastructure. Like
Oh,
we are migrating to the cloud, we are going to AWS, all of that, but existing Booking infrastructure is all on-prem. And I think the way it's set up is like so beautifully done uh, to be able to manage at that scale. Yeah, I think we have uh, like there's a lot that I have learned through my stint here. And Amsterdam as a city, beautiful. Like I do not like the cloudy and the gray part, but outside that, like as a city, it's really beautiful. Uh, when I came here, it was still summer, or like summerish. So I during that period, I just felt like I'm in another world.
oh, that's amazing. Okay,
Yeah,
I was surprised with the on-prem thing. Like Booking.com at huge scale was still managing on-prem until now.
yeah, yeah. Still
Okay, and
is.
what was the motivation like? And what was the motivation going to cloud? If you don't have any problem sharing that.
But there is like again, it's still all on-prem. Like a lot of it is still on-prem. But the migration to AWS, I would say I don't know the management's viewpoint exactly, but it makes more sense to actually migrate to AWS and leverage all the capabilities that AWS gives you.
Okay.
Now, not all of them will be exactly one to one with what you get on-prem uh, in terms of cost, in terms of maintenance.
Yeah.
There'll always be trade-offs, and that's what you need to make.
I think engineers love that trade-off, and then it'll be an interesting problem to kind of migrate that. So
Yeah,
great. Awesome. Okay, so let's talk about one of the most important thing that caught my eye, which was AWS Community Builders. So you recently got into it, and I think it's an amazing community for all the tech enthusiasts as well as people who want to contribute, people who want to learn, right?
yeah,
So first, uh, what was the motivation of you uh, being in that program, and probably a little bit about your journey from the
yeah,
process to getting selected?
yeah. So I've been working with AWS for I think 5 to 6 years now. Um, And when I joined Booking, I joined the cloud enablement team, which is the team within Booking that is trying to promote public cloud within Booking.
Okay.
And yeah, my experience has been so much into AWS especially over the last 2 years, that it just like I think previous year I saw that the community builder program was on, and when I tried to apply, I saw the criterias and I was like, okay, maybe I don't have enough stuff then, so I didn't apply. But then this year I knew I had enough. I had published enough articles and all of those things. I was already talking about AWS a lot. So then all the criteria fit. I applied and I got through.
So is it like you need to meet certain criteria? But I'll talk about a little bit of that.
Yeah. So basically, you have to have publicly posted and try to spread knowledge about AWS.
Okay.
So you need to have some articles that you have published and all of those things. And while submitting, you have to give your reasons as to why you want to apply. Here are the things that I've already done in the past and all of those. So you need to fill out those details. And then those are vetted against all the applications that came through.
And what makes the community different? Because I see a lot of people excited about it. What makes the community a little bit different from the normal, usual dev communities that we run?
So some great things. I would say like you get exposure to like we have as a community builder program, you have AWS service teams coming and talk to us about the features that they are planning to launch and stuff like that. I won't go into what features because that's under NDA, but
Yeah.
you get insights into what's happening in AWS on different
Oh,
services. You get to meet a plethora of people who have built something on AWS. And most of the time, the use cases are similar, right? So you can use a reference architecture. You can talk to people about the challenges they have faced. So this is an entire community who has been working on AWS, as we're building things on AWS, and you get to leverage that knowledge.
Okay.
Yeah.
Awesome. I think that's a great point. So probably you should, or you are in the position of being a solutions architect at AWS as well, right? Like you must have that kind of knowledge by now.
I don't know what it takes.
Okay, so
Like I have architected stuff. I don't know whether I've never tried to interview for solutions architects. I don't know what it will take to get there.
okay, okay, amazing. Because when I talk to people from AWS who are solutions engineers or solution architect, it's their role to like find what kind of AWS services will fit the business needs, and they'll have
Yes.
to design the whole solution. So if you have been there, then probably you have known a lot about AWS technologies, services, and all stuff. So
Yes.
you might easily fit in
But the
there.
truth is AWS is so huge that it's difficult to master AWS. So like even solutions
That is true.
architect, like one of the other things about Booking is like we work very closely with AWS solutions architect. Uh, so one of the things that we see is that solutions architect also have certain specializations, certain
Okay.
services in which they are mastering the knowledge about that service. There are also generic solutions architect that have the breadth, but
Okay.
then for specific things they refer to solutions architect that are specific to a particular
Okay.
service
So
or
probably
domain.
they're like niche areas again in solution architect where they're like,
Oh
okay,
yeah.
we know about storage, we know about compute, we
Yes,
know about.
exactly.
Okay. Okay, that makes sense. Obviously, it's a huge, huge.
Yeah.
They roll out features every now and then. Okay,
Yes.
interesting. So the next interesting thing I think that caught my eyes, like you're posting almost every day on LinkedIn with tech stuff and all stuff, right? So there are two things that you have. One is the Maven course that you run. It's a cohort-based course on
Mhm.
learning distributed systems, and then you have your Substack, right?
Yes.
So what was the motivation behind both of this, and how did you decide that I'll run a Maven course? Because Substack is a thing. I think it's easier for developers who kind of share knowledge on an everyday extent. It's like, okay, I'll probably have a single place where I'll post
Yeah.
things, but Maven was a little unusual. So how did you proceed about that?
I don't think even Maven one is unusual. Like you have people, Vipul has been on the show. Vipul runs
Yeah.
a cohort. Arpit runs a cohort. I think there is a lot of good examples, and I have personally been part of both their cohorts. So for me, it never felt like I'm trying to do something different.
Okay.
For me, it was always like I'm trying to do something what they have already done. It's just that the content will be a little different. I wouldn't even say everything is different because we are all trying to teach somewhere or the other at a high level the same thing.
Okay.
But yeah, there are some differences here and there, but the concept remains the same according to me.
Okay. That brings me to an interesting question. What is the
Yes.
USP that you follow for your course?
So for me, my target audience was mid to senior level engineers who have some experience
Hmm.
and who have experience building stuff, may or may not have experience designing stuff. And in the cohort, we went over actual coding examples, although I never highlighted it in my Maven course. I didn't want to do that. But in the cohort, you actually went through practical live examples to demonstrate uh, what are the nuances while working with different systems. So we had a lot of database locking, isolation, all of those examples, uh, consistent hashing, S3 pre-signed URLs, CloudFront, all of those things. So there were examples for each of the things for serverless. So we try to talk about all the concepts with as much practical examples as possible.
Hmm.
Obviously, we couldn't do that with everything, but we were able to do that with some of them.
Okay, interesting. So I think that kind of is a very good overview. Like initially, you need to set the expectations right. Like a lot of the courses that are coming in, like the latest ones, I think they're saying that we are like good for everyone, like who is new and who is experienced. I don't think that sometimes work, right? Because if you are like 5 years down the line, you will not learn something that a first year or like a fresher is looking
Yeah.
for.
And
So I think.
the cohorts give a unique challenge that way. So, like in my cohort, we had someone who had 18 years experience who was a staff too at VMware.
Oh my God.
And then we
Okay.
had people who had 1 or 3 years experience. And then that range is difficult to maintain. So when I started the cohort, I had a call with each and everyone who joined the cohort. And when I had a call with this senior person, I did tell him to his face that I am scared that you might not learn anything. And if that happens, tell me. The happiest thing I had out of my cohort is that his rating is 4.5 and he's given me a really good review. That made me the happiest because for a person from his experience, having worked with the creators of Kubernetes, he's actually got that experience of working closely with the creators of Kubernetes. Him coming and telling that he enjoyed the cohort and he learned a lot, that meant a lot for me.
Oh, that is amazing. I think great. I think yeah, it's very hard to meet someone at that expectations, and probably whatever
Yeah,
you teach, he must have come across, he or she must have come
exactly.
across that in some way or the other. But great. I think you should like you should share the testimony. I didn't see that, but I don't know.
It is there. It
Is
is
there?
there in the one image that I shared. One of the five is his testimonial.
Okay, okay, interesting. I think
Yes.
that's worth sharing for. I would
Yeah.
definitely share it forward. So cool.
Yeah. I
That
think I saw your video with Kavilya. I'm on Kavilya's side. I'm bad at marketing.
no, no, it's not sometimes marketing. It's sometimes the worth of the course. So when you have something really good, and when when people say it, like when experienced people say it, then I think it doesn't affect anything, right?
That's true.
Okay, cool. So how do you prepare yourself for these courses? Like, do you read some interesting articles or white papers or something? Because at one point blogs of certain companies, like they're like shallow, right? You'll not get to
Yes.
learn a lot of things. They hide out a lot of details because of copyright issues and all stuff. So what is your approach while preparing these courses or upskilling yourself?
So for the course specifically, to be honest, when I launched the course, I understated the amount of effort it will take. It took me a lot more effort to prepare the course or prepare the content of the course because one point is how do you one point is what are the content that you're talking about. I think the second part that I thought of when I started preparing the content, which was later, is that you need to present the content in a way that it incites thoughts.
Okay.
You don't want to give away good content with answers. You want to make people think. You want to have them brainstorm, think even the worst case solution, and then bring them to a solution because that's what is the learning journey of a person. You don't get to the end state immediately. And if you get to that, you don't really learn the entire thing. You know the answer then. You don't know the process.
Yeah.
So that took a lot of time. But to your point, I generally also read a lot of I wouldn't say white papers. I would say outage reports and all of those things. They give me a good high level idea. I read a lot of blogs, obviously, because I also write some. So uh, I go read. Then after that, I try to play around with stuff.
Okay.
So that gives me the best idea. Uh, I'm a very underconfident person for things that I have not played around with because then I know theory. And when I say that, it doesn't mean that if I have worked on one technology, I am underconfident in a similar technology. That wouldn't happen because I'm able to correlate stuff between, like, let's assume Flink and Spark.
Yeah.
I'm able to understand what are the differences, and then my mind works that way. But if it is something completely new, like AI ML, I have no exposure to. No matter what I read, I wouldn't feel confident till I try it out.
Okay. And are you planning to try it out anytime soon?
ML, I'm actually interested in. I think by the end of the year, I'll I'll definitely have a go at it.
Okay, that's interesting. Like, is it because of the recent wave, or like, do you feel an inherent
I,
motivation for that?
I don't care about the wave. I think from what I know, and like, I don't think you need to learn ML, but I think everything will get influenced by it. So then it's like internet, like you need to understand it because everything gets influenced by it. So that's my motivation. It's not because it will take away my job.
Very good point. Okay, so coming back to that designing course perspective, so I think the one important thing that you talked about was like how do you design the course, right? It's obviously you need to like find a sweet spot between not giving away the good material as well as with keeping away with the lazy stuff, right? You will not
Yeah.
obviously mention the lazy stuff. I think the similar pattern goes with the training of a software engineer, right? Like how
Yes.
a software engineer grows from a senior to staff to principal and all stuff. So I think you have been there almost everywhere, like senior, lead, principal, and all stuff. So why don't you tell like how should a software engineer function so that they kind of get knowledge on an everyday basis as well as keep themselves growing?
I think for me, like a lot of the times people come and ask me this question. There are multiple ways to look at it. There's no straightforward answer because your situation might be different. You might be working on a greenfield project, you might be maintaining a project, you might be maintaining an old legacy project on a
Okay.
language that no one talks about like now. So it depends on where you're coming from, but I think the first thing is always knowing your product,
Okay.
knowing the tech stack with which you're working, knowing the nuances of it, understanding the design of it, knowing where it can go wrong and what are the things that could improve in that.
Okay.
So, as a software engineer, where I'm tasked to just deliver uh, features and enhancements, this is the thing that I would focus on. I know
Okay.
my scope. I'm trying to build something or enhance something. What is the impact of this enhancement? How can I make this enhancement even better? How would customers use this enhancement? So, from a tech perspective and from a customer perspective, both.
Okay.
As soon as you start thinking from a customer perspective, that is a great sign for an entry level software engineer
Okay.
because that is what you will need when you grow. The other thing is that is different will be whether you work in a directly product facing team or you work or sorry directly customer facing team or you work in a developer facing team or an internal team.
Mm-hmm.
I think internal team initially in my career I always thought better to always work with direct customer because internal teams lower amount scale low all of those things. I have now found that from uh, building up that customer centricity, I think having access to an internal team is always better. That's my opinion as of today,
Okay.
because I feel that you would get that experience of always talking with someone, understanding how they use the product, knowing what challenges they are having, and then trying to solve them. So
Okay.
that habit of trying to solve other people's problem, not not by upgrading from Java to some other language, not a language change, that doesn't impact the customer. So this is where it's very important to think why uh, you would want to do something. So if you're investing in language change, let's assume someone upgraded from, like we see the story of someone changing from Golang to Rust, right?
Yeah.
And if we see that there is customer impact because you get faster product. So if you're sure about that, then sure, make that adjustment. But if you're making that adjustment, you should be sure that customer is actually having a problem with that extra high milliseconds of latency. If the customer has no problem, then you're doing it for your fun.
Yeah.
Okay. So always thinking from a customer's perspective will help you grow. So this is as a core.
Mm-hmm.
As a senior, I would say you need to have like an understanding of designing systems much better, and you need to think about existing design and see where it has challenges and how you can overcome them.
Okay.
I think when I was a SE2, whatever, in in S&P, the the one of the few things that knowingly, unknowingly, I was doing well was that I was looking at AWS at that point when the company had just announced that we will be doing something with AWS. Everything was on-prem.
Okay.
They just announced that we'll be doing something with AWS. I started looking with AWS and what we can do on that. Similarly with big data, like nothing was being used. I was the first one in my team to introduce big data, and we implemented some things. We saw huge performance gains, all of those things. So it is important for you to keep an open horizon as to what works well, what doesn't work well. Till you don't understand what doesn't work well, you will
Hmm.
not try to find alternate solution. So as SE1, you can report those problems. You can say that this doesn't work well. As seniors, you need to find possible solutions to those problems. So
Okay.
reporting is one part. Find this or possible solutions to those problems. I think as a principal, after senior, as a principal, you are always managing multiple teams then. You're not tied to a single team, which means you're looking at organizational level decisions or
Hmm.
multi-team decisions, which is basically how should the framework be? How should things be done? Are the processes aligned across teams? All of those things. So when you reach that level, then you are not really involved as much in lower level design decisions.
Right.
You are making the high level design decisions, you are making strategies, you are trying to do things to enable teams, multiple teams, to do their job properly.
Oh, amazing. Amazing. I think,
And
yeah.
the other caveat, one more caveat here, is that all of these depend from company to company. So a principal at company X might be doing the same thing as a senior in company Y.
Hmm.
So there's no gold standard. Uh, if you want to take a gold standard from a FANG company because they have probably the best uh, criteria defined. And those really, like as a principal, you have a lot of impact because you have a lot of area of influence. Um, and you work with seniors to get things done, seniors and core engineers.
Oh, that's, yeah. Yeah, obviously, because the things change for companies with the space of
Yes,
B2C and B2B as well, right? Like if you are in a
yes,
B2B business, then the whole customer thing is like a different concept altogether.
yes, correct.
So that's interesting. So, but thank you that you kind of like broke down everything clearly with this junior ones focusing on code and ownership, I would say. And
Yeah,
once you grow up the ladder to become a senior, you should start owning different technologies, like what this technology might do good for certain customers, not just for the
yeah,
fun of you doing it. And then
yeah,
principal or staff software engineers is like creating strategies impacts which will align different teams for each of them to move faster in
yeah.
overall sense. That will just take a leap for the software developments altogether. Okay, amazing. I think that was mostly what I thought of. And if you want to talk about anything, you want to have a suggestions or just like that, then probably I would give a stage for like 5-10 minutes, whatever.
Okay, this is unexpected. I think uh, like one of the things people focus nowadays, and I do that as well from time to time, is that you focus on the end goal rather than the journey. I think the writing on LinkedIn part
Hmm.
is has one thing if that has taught me is that you need to just be consistent. You will not get fame overnight, and that's something a dream, but that will never happen. Uh, and it just takes a lot of effort
Yeah.
every day. Doesn't matter if it's 15 minutes, 20 minutes. If you think that uh, you want to grow, just put in some time. And if not every day, every other day. If not every other day, every week. Just
Yeah.
put some time aside to upskilling yourself. Uh, there is nothing that can stop you after that. Like uh, all you need to do is just work on yourself. That's all.
Okay, I think that was great. I think, and obviously, uh, upskilling in this current world has not become something good to have. It's like must have, right?
It's
It's
definitely necessary.
so definitely that. And I think a lot of the people have focused on consistency, and I think people are becoming aware of that, that the journey is important. Because somewhere we try that, okay, I want like 100,000 followers, but
Yes,
you should actually follow the process, that okay, if I do right for like 2 years consistently, then I don't need to care about 100,000 followers. Probably I'll get more than that.
exactly.
So, and that goes on. So we somewhere or the other were attached with instant gratification, and I think the instant gratification was assigning a metric that okay, by the end of this year
Yes,
I'll have 1 million subscribers or whatever. But I think everyone I have talked about kind of says the same thing. Kai Vale was saying the same thing, like whatever podcast you do, like do it consistently. It can be once a month, but you should be careful about like every month you release one. That was one
correct.
thing. I was like, okay, that is little tough, but I'll try my best. And I think
And
that you, yeah,
yeah,
please go ahead.
this is something that I think people find, like, if you're looking from the outside, it looks easy.
Yeah.
Uh, I cannot tell you how many times I have felt frustrated that I'm not able to think of an idea for a post, and I don't post if I cannot think of something good to post. And it is frustrating because you can post something average or something
Yeah.
that doesn't give value. I wouldn't even call average good, bad. Uh, it's something that I wouldn't like reading. So
Okay.
that's my measure of like how I post, and it is it is not the same every day. Like it uh, it goes up and down. It based on how my mind is working. I am able to think of a post in a minute, versus it takes me half an hour to figure out what I need to post. That, and I think anyone who is starting off a blog,
Mm-hmm.
podcast, all of those things, I think one thing Vipul and Arpit told me is like always think about the why. Like, what is your why for doing this? If you are clear in your heart about your why, you will always continue. But if you're thinking or looking at someone else and trying to form your why based on that, it will never work.
Yeah, that is for sure. I get to feel that because I did it for a purpose of like meeting very smart peoples, and it's not something you see in LinkedIn, right? Like whatever we
Yeah,
talked about, it's not always the things I see in LinkedIn. But when I have a, like 30 minutes or 40 minutes conversation, I think it opens up a whole new horizon. And so even if it's in the middle of the day or middle of the night, or I'm packed up, I don't have that laziness that okay, should I do it or not, because I am driven by it. So that was the
yeah,
whole reason that everything adds up.
correct.
So that was amazing, I think. Thank you Pratik for the amazing 30-35 minute sessions that we had. And obviously we'll stay connected. I'll invite you more with different kind of things, but where we'll talk about different kind of problems you face as a software engineer, as a course instructor, or as a community builder. So we'll talk about that. I'm planning out a specific like problem statement discussions. So we'll talk only about
Sure.
problems, and we'll try to invite all of the peoples again. So thank you again for your time. Hopefully we'll stay
Yeah,
connected, and all the best for your
yeah,
ML journey, and see you
yeah.
soon then.
Thank you so much, Satish, and all the best for your podcast.
Thank you.